Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome back once again to the Farts and Crap Show, where today we have Stick Tips episode 15, which is about the PDP Faceoff Deluxe Plus controller for the Nintendo Switch. But thanks to the Brook Wingman XE adapter, also for the PlayStation 4. So that's pretty great. It's pretty great. So half of this episode I'm going to be talking about the adapter, half of this I'm going to be talking about this controller in particular, and I have been using this controller for quite some time, at least 100 hours of gameplay, and so I have some thoughts on this. As per usual, I am going to do a teardown in this video, because A, I couldn't find one on YouTube, B, now I know why. And before we get into things too deep, I want to talk about the mass amount of versatility that this adapter has. First off, if you're wondering, yes, this is the blue camo edition of the Faceoff Deluxe Plus. It is currently out of stock, but at the time of recording, I really like the look of this one. I hope they get it back in stock. There is also a green that I think looks really good. But yeah, let's get right into it. So, surprisingly, a couple of the controllers I have done episodes on already worked on this adapter. And, oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. At the time of recording, they are on firmware version 1.2G for the Brook Wingman XE. So, some of the things I'm going to be talking about are contingent on that point. So if you're watching this in the future and they are on a more recent firmware, please update. This firmware released on sometime in April of 2021, so it's always worth seeing if there's an update. Some of the issues I had actually went away after I reinstalled the update, even though it said it installed successfully the first time. I guess it didn't, so just wanted to put that out there, say that real quick. So, first off, yes, it works with the 8BitDo M30 2.4G. This is their 6-button Mega Drive controller, or Genesis controller, and it's the 2.4 gigahertz wireless version. I've talked about this controller like in 2 Stick Tips episodes. I love this one. Unfortunately, it doesn't register all of the inputs, because the adapter thinks it's just a 6-button Mega Drive controller. And that's unfortunate because it has pretty much all of the inputs you need for like any Switch game. The only downside is you don't have analog sticks. You can set the D-pad to be the left analog or right analog, but for games where you're going to need both simultaneously, not going to work. But you can use it on your PS4 if you only need like the start button and the ABC XYZ. However, there are button combinations for pretty much all of the inputs. Again, please check their website if you're interested in that. The next one it works with pretty much perfectly is the 8BitDo SN30 Pro Plus. One of my favorite, actually, it's my favorite Bluetooth controller. Hands down. But I prefer wired. If not wired, then 2.4 gigahertz. But for Bluetooth, favorite controller. All the inputs work as expected. It's just you're going to deal with the latency. That's pretty much it. Pretty much all of... I expect it would also work with all of the other SN30 wireless controllers on here. If that sort of thing is your jam, can finally use it hassle-free on the PS4. The only hassle being it's wireless. And it even works with the 8BitDo G-Bros adapter in wired mode as long as you have it set to X input. Because X input is like the basis for Xbox controllers and using controllers on your PC, that sort of thing. So yeah, just plug in the USB cable to the thing. You don't even need batteries in the G-Bros adapter. Plug in the USB Type A to the Brook Wingman XE. I'm just gonna say Wingman XE from now on, or even just Wingman. But and then yeah, you can use a GameCube controller or a Wii Classic controller as your main controller on your PS4. And yes, those are green grippets on my Yoshi style PDP fight pad for Wii U. They have not been available for a while, so please don't ask me on that. Typically, if you get grippets on Amazon now, you're getting black and blue ones, and that's it. So, I don't know when the other colors are coming back. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, the downside here, if you're using this as a PS4 controller, is there's no way to do L3 and R3. So, that's a pretty big downside. Also, I think minus is... Yes, minus is the touchpad press. So there's also no way to do the capture. Never mind, the G-Bros adapter has a capture button on the device, so just not on the controller. But it does work flawlessly. You're just missing some inputs. Same with the M30, so... And sadly, my favorite wired controller for the Switch, the 8BitDo SN30 Pro USB, does not work on this. At all. I tried so many times and so many different, like, ways of connecting it and stuff, and the first light, like you are player 1 on the controller, does light up when you plug it in. It's just none of the inputs register. So, I don't know what the deal is. I'm hoping they add this kind of functionality. But at the time of recording, nothing. So, that makes me sad. Okay. And this pile of garbage is what you're going to need if you want to do the teardown as a... Just so you guys know, I don't recommend doing a teardown for this controller. For the PDP Faceoff Deluxe Plus, if you're having issues with it, just test it as soon as you get it. If you have any hardware issues with the controller within the first week or 2 or 3, please return it and get a replacement. It's probably a defect. The one I have, I adore it. It's so great. But I didn't see a teardown on YouTube for this controller. And I was like, you know what? I gotta get in there. Gotta let the people know what's going on inside with this thing. And actually, I'm kind of glad I did do a teardown. The downside is I didn't fix anything or improve anything, like, feel-wise with the controller. I just successfully took it apart and cleaned it a little bit and put it back together again. But yeah, so you're gonna need a brush, at least one. I use a new toothbrush and a smaller, I don't even know what you'd call that brush. It comes with the set that I'll link in the description. Needle nose, tweezers, 3 different types of prying tools, a microfiber cloth, 3-point Phillips head screwdriver with a narrow neck, baking soda and peroxide, base toothpaste, if I might have said that already, dust off compressed air, and that's pretty much it. So, and again, I don't recommend doing this. It's a huge hassle, and this is coming from the guy that has taken apart like all of his controllers multiple times. So, but if you do want to go through with this part, or just watch me go through it, once you take off the faceplate, which is very easy to do on the Faceoff Deluxe Pro or Deluxe Plus, because they actually added like a little like thumb hole for it. And PDP Gaming does have mod kits with like different like faceplates and like attachments and stuff for these controllers on their website. I don't typically see them on Amazon. And yes, there's like a pretty good amount of gunk like on the controller or whatever, but it's still outside the shell, which is what I like about this design. It's like even once you take off the faceplate, everything is very well isolated. Very little of this debris actually can find a way into the controller, and that's one thing I love about this design, and why I'm saying don't really bother with a tear down. Even if you just want to take off the faceplate, you can take off the analog stick caps and clean those, and then just kind of brush around where the buttons are, and that's going to be good enough, pretty much. And again, I'll get to my like conclusion, final thoughts at the end. So yeah, once you do that, take off the 6 screws, take off the analog stick caps, put those to the side, make sure they're organized and in a space where you're not going to accidentally, throw them all over the place. There are a ton of clips on the shell of this controller, so I actually used all 3 of my prying tools to get it open. And it's a bit of a pain. I felt like I was damaging the shell and the controller while I was taking it apart. And yeah, this is the back. Those shiny squares are actually metal blocks. That's all they are. Just pure metal blocks, which may or may not have been more expensive than rumble motors. I don't know. But I'm glad they have them, because it does add a nice amount of heft to a otherwise very lightweight controller, and it's in the handles, which some pro controllers have that as an option. That's like a luxury option, and I gotta say, I'm glad they did it, because when you pick it up, it feels like there's like hefty rumble motors in there, and it feels good. I like it. The next part I want to say is there are little tabs here because there are back paddles that are removable on this controller. Yes, programmable back paddles on a $25 controller, which is amazing. I like to program them to L3 and R3 when I'm using this on the PS4 or the Switch, because I don't like clicking in the analog sticks, because yeah, it wears them down, and I like to be nice to my analog sticks. So having this is a great option. It's easy to program them as well. You can program them on either the Switch or the PS4 with the adapter. I didn't think that function was going to work while using it with the Wingman XE, but it does. So that's really cool. And on the back of the PCB, there are 4 screws on the main PCB. The top 3 you actually don't have to unscrew at all to get to the front part, remove it from the front half of the shell. The only one you have to unscrew is the middle one. That is the only screw holding this part of the controller together. So the clips are doing most of the work, and those top 3 screws are mainly just for attaching, keeping the shoulder buttons kind of in place, and keeping an additional PCB kind of attached to the thing. It's weird. I'll get to it. It's weird. So here it is, the main PCB, which has 2 auxiliary PCBs on the top and the bottom. For whatever reason, the headphone jack got its own PCB, and it's connected to the main PCB via 8 pins, and it's just kind of like isn't on there super good. And I've heard some people have had problems with the headphone jack in this controller. That's probably why. And so if you have had problems with yours, please get a replacement. I imagine it's faulty. That's probably not how it's supposed to be, but I haven't functionally had a problem with mine. I use it pretty often when I want to watch stuff on my Switch and I don't want to have anything else on and I just want to plug a headphone jack, my headphones into the controller. It works very well. On the PS4 with the Wingman, it doesn't do anything. The headphone jack doesn't work at all, which is very unfortunate. I wish it did, but whatever. It's fine. It's fine, really. On the top it says 2048. On the bottom left it says 4820. I thought that was weird. Just wanted to point that out. Also, the analog stick modules are a little bit different than what I've seen on other controllers that I've dissected. So, pretty cool. Because I thought they felt different, and they look different. They appear to be different analog stick modules. So that's pretty tight. The other thing I was not expecting is in the ABXY buttons, the X is raised. And on the auxiliary PCB that's on the top, which houses the plus and minus and home and capture buttons. I have no idea why they did this. Probably just as a space-saving measure or something. No clue. No clue. Oh, and the little gold circle in a square thing in the bottom middle, that's for the program button. So the headphone jack does share its PCB with one other thing, I guess. And the D-pad. Yeah, the D-pad, it's the same kind of isolated D-pad module that is in the PDP Afterglow Pro controller for Wii U, which was a great design. But I'm a little sad I can't get to that conductive rubber membrane for the D-pad. In this case, I don't care, because the D-pad feels great. I honestly wouldn't change a thing about it. The only thing I would change, and this is personal preference, this is not a slight on PDP. Of course, I would like it in the PlayStation layout and parallel sticks, but it's a Switch controller first, so of course they're going to keep the layout. But personal preference. And so yeah, as per usual in Stick Tips episodes, I went ahead and removed the conductive rubber membranes that I could get to. The shoulder buttons were kind of out of the question. I couldn't find a good way to get them free from the main PCB without doing what felt like damaging the controller. And I've never had problems with the shoulder buttons on this controller, even after like 100+ hours of use. So I don't think it's going to come up in the future, and they seem very well isolated and mounted. So I just stuck with the plus and minus, home, capture, program button, and ABXY. So as per usual, I went ahead and took those to the sink with a brush, baking soda and peroxide-based toothpaste, insanely hot water, and brushed them, rinsed them super good, and blasted them dry with compressed air. Please don't air dry them, it does leave a residue. Or using like a towel or something to dry them with will typically leave debris, like little fibers off of things. So compressed air dry. Best way I've found to dry conductive rubber membranes. One thing I wanted to say to PDP's credit, the fact of how well each of these are isolated and sit on the shell, they aren't moving at all. There's no room for them to slide around. They all have like their own like pins and molds and stuff. This is fantastic. More controllers should adopt this. Just like designing it and molding it into a way where it's not going to move and it's not susceptible to dirt and debris and sweat and whatever stuff that's going to mess up electronics, this is great. The front PCB, out of curiosity, I had to take off that top and bottom PCB to see if the shoulder buttons would come free, what was under there, if there was like more hidden screws. It still didn't make it any easier to take off the shoulder buttons. So at this point I was like, screw it, I'll just put it back on. There's one of the screws that I said was optional before, holding this PCB in place on top of the main PCB. And again, just like 8 pin, is it 8 or 9 pins? Whatever. It's a pin connector, like the 8-pin connector of the other one, so. And this is with everything cleaned and back together, and I took the headphone jack, like tiniest PCB I've seen on a controller, off, just to show you guys the opposite side of it, and to show you guys the clean analog stick heads. I love these analog stick heads. They are my favorite analog stick heads on any controller, because the ribbed outside, like the concave inside with like the thing in the middle, and just perfect. It feels perfect. I've never seen this design on another controller, and now I just want these on every controller I own, because this feels that good. Out of all the things on this controller I can praise and I love the design of, this is probably the most integral. I really love the shoulder buttons on this controller as well. The fact that you have, well, I'll save my final thoughts for the end. There's still other things I want to get to. So, I went ahead and cleaned the ABXY, the conductive rubber membranes, and the actual ABXY plastic plungers for the buttons themselves, purely because they did have a little bit of residue on them, and I thought, while I'm at it, I don't plan on opening up this controller again, so may as well clean them up. And I went ahead and put everything back, the plus and minus, home and capture, the ABXY, the metal chunks, and the conductive rubber membranes for all the pieces, so the PCB was ready to lay back on top and start the reassembly process. I did consider leaving out the metal weights, but they're pretty heavy. Like they add a decent amount of heft to the controller, heft which I like. So, and after going through all the process backwards and putting the shells back together and really kind of mushing it with a pretty decent amount of force until all the clips actually clipped back into place, I can definitely say, please don't do this. Everything is very well isolated on this controller. I don't think taking it apart to clean it is even remotely necessary. It's also way too much of a hassle, and it just has a ton of clips on this thing, and just there's no good way to unclip it. And here's the main thing. The main reason why I recommend the Brook Wingman XE for any PS4 owner. PS4 or DualShock 4s are kind of fluctuating a lot in price now. And I think that's because Sony's not making as many as they used to. So different places, like, their stock is all over the place, right? However, what's really easy to find are great officially licensed Switch controllers. This thing also works with the Hori Pad Mini for Nintendo Switch, by the way. And recently they came out with some great Pokemon designs. And Seth actually has been using his a lot. And it's still holding up super well. And that's another $25 controller. So that's where I was at with it, because I've put so much time into my PS4 Pro. A lot of kind of the modern games that I play on there. A lot of my favorite games are on that system. And I've had problems with tons of controllers in the past. That's why I started doing this show. Not the Farts and Crap show, but Stick Tips. And, see, there was a big uptick recently in the Nacon wired compact controller video of Stick Tips that I did, as well as the other Nacon asymmetric wireless controller for PS4, and just like a couple of the PS4 things that I had made specifically about the controllers. And I was like, huh. A lot of people are in the market for PS4 controllers. And I don't even recommend these controllers. The Nacon asymmetric wireless controller is pretty good. But my experience with Nacon controllers is that they wear out pretty fast. And some of those controllers are very expensive. See, in my opinion, if you spend more on a premium controller, it should last you a while. But I've talked to people where they say, oh, my DualShock 4s, like, I've gone through like 5 of them. Or, you know, I get a new Scuff controller like every other year. And that sort of thing. I'm like, you're talking about hundreds of dollars. And a regular purchase for like one controller, for one platform. And if you guys are like me, you might also have a Switch. A lot of gamers I know have a Switch, and that's like it's like their other platform. They have like an Xbox and a Switch, or a PS4 and a Switch, or like a PS5 and a Switch, maybe if they're, you know, we're lucky enough to get a PS5. Or like they're a PC gamer and a Switch. And a lot of these controllers that are officially licensed Switch controllers also work on the PC, because they have that functionality for X input. And now, thanks to the Wingman XE, like, it lets you use those same controllers on your PS4. And for a lot of people, they'll go, oh, I can use my Switch Pro controller on the PS4. Is like, yes, you can. Because a lot of people I've talked to, they're like, that's my favorite controller. Like, cool. That's great. But for me, if I find a cheaper controller that I really love, and it has all the things that I like, I'm gonna get that. Like, this one has a headphone jack, programmable back paddles, wired only. And as you may have noticed in those pictures, the wire is very securely in place, with like both halves of the shell like clamping the thing that's like mounted to the, it's not going anywhere. And that's the whole thing with like all of these inputs. Like, none of the buttons feel like they're rattling. Like, I can shake this controller. Ow, I actually hit myself. It doesn't make a sound. Most controllers, you shake them, you can hear a little bit. Buttons rattling or something moving slightly. This controller, dead silent. And I like that a lot. A lot. A lot. And why am I walking back here? I don't know. Because I'm not really concerned about playing the game right now, because I'm concerned about finishing up this episode with my final thoughts. And that's my point. With this adapter, you can just get cheaper Switch controllers that are readily available, where you don't even have to spend more than 25 bucks to get like a good PS4 controller. And not just a good PS4 controller. The PDP Faceoff Deluxe Plus is my favorite PS4 controller. Yeah, it is. And it has all the inputs. It has all the inputs. It's got touchpad. It's got options. It's got share. I think you can do the share. I don't remember how, but you can do the share. There we go. You can do the share. And, yeah, that's the point. That's the point. And if you're like me, and, you know, you play on a few other platforms, you have a few controllers, odds are the XE, the Wingman XE will probably work with one of your controllers that you already enjoy using. So, and yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode, guys. So thank you for stopping by. Let me know what you guys thought. Please leave a comment, a like, you know, subscribe if you haven't already, that kind of thing. And I'll see you guys in the next episode when I'm going to be testing something else on the Wingman XE and some other stuff in the future. So, hope you all have a beautiful day. Hope this helped. And catch you guys in the next episode. So, until next time, take care. Right, and a very special thank you to our TFAX channel members, Retro HD, Old Cranky Gamer, Novalis Draconis. Thank you guys so much. This is a new thing at the end of every video. I don't think the last episode of Stick Tips there was one of these because we didn't have channel members yet. But yeah, check out the join button if you guys want to support the show a bit more directly. And yeah, because it greatly helps out. And these guys, thank you guys so much. So yeah, have a beautiful day. See you guys in the next episode.